Welcome back to Classic Mosaic Truth. We are continuing our journey through the mind of Japan's most legendary strategist, Miyamoto Musashi.
Yes, we are.
And today, we are tackling something that it feels incredibly urgent for the world we are living in right now. We are looking at episode 11, which is titled The Life-Giving Sword, Perception and Distance.
It is really good to be back. And you are totally right. This topic it is pivotal. If the previous discussions we had were about building the foundation, the stance, the grip, the spirit,
Right.
this is where we start talking about the absolute highest level of mastery.
Right.
This is where Musashi stops sounding like a soldier and starts sounding like a sage.
Yeah, exactly. Because when most people think of Musashi, they think of the duelist, right? The guy who never lost a fight.
Yeah.
The guy with two swords taking on an entire clan.
The legend.
Right, the legend. But the Musashi we are looking at in this portion, Musashi, who wrote the Book of Five Rings, was a different person entirely, wasn't he?
Completely different.
Yeah.
You have to remember, he wrote this book at the very end of his life. He was living in a cave, Rigondo, isolated from the whole world.
Wow.
Yeah, he wasn't looking for the next fight anymore. He had evolved from a young man who was, focused on winning at all costs, often through brute force or clever tricks.
Just surviving, really.
Exactly, surviving. But he evolved into a master who was concerned with something much, much deeper. He moved from what was called the killing sword, or Satsujinken, to the life-giving sword, or Kathajinken.
And that distinction, that shift, is exactly what we are going to unpack. Because, let's be honest, most of us react to chaos in our lives by jumping right into the middle of it.
Oh, absolutely.
We get an angry email, we fire one back, someone cuts us off in traffic, we speed up, we just add noise to noise, we get up close, we get emotional, and we lose all perspective.
We do. We confuse activity with effectiveness. We think that by engaging immediately, we are solving the problem. But Musashi teaches us that true mastery isn't about overpowering the chaos by adding more chaos to it. It is really about two things: perception and distance. It is about creating the necessary space, physical, emotional, and mental space, to resolve a situation without unnecessary destruction.
It is such a powerful concept, winning by making the conflict completely unnecessary.
Exactly.
Before we really get into weeds here, I want to make sure we get this out there for everyone listening. If this episode helps you, please hit like and subscribe for the next one. We want to make sure these insights reach as many people as possible.
So let's start with that core concept, the life-giving sword. I mean, it sounds like a contradiction in terms, doesn't it?
It really does.
A sword is a weapon. It is designed to cut. So how can it give life?
That is the big question. When I first read that phrase, I thought it was just, poetic nonsense. But it is actually a very practical philosophy.
It is incredibly practical. Historically, in the Japanese martial tradition, specifically within the Yagyu Shinkijuryu, which influenced this era, there was this sharp distinction. Satsujinken is the sword that kills.
The traditional idea of a sword.
Right. It is the use of force to destroy an enemy. It is being a technician of violence. But Katsujinken, the life-giving sword, is the sword that protects. It represents the transition to a state where your skill is so high and your perception so clear that you can resolve the conflict without needing to destroy the opponent.
So it is not about being a pacifist in the sense of just rolling over and doing nothing.
Not at all.
It is about doing something so precise that it rectifies the situation rather than just blowing it up entirely.
Precisely. Think of it as the difference between, say, a sledgehammer and a scalpel. Or even better, think of it in terms of everyday leadership or parenting.
Oh, that is a good angle.
Yeah, if a leader uses the killing sword, they crush dissent, they fire people who disagree with them, they rule by fear, they essentially kill the spirit of the team just to maintain basic order.
Right, which we see all the time in corporate environments.
Exactly. But a leader, using the life-giving sword, uses their authority to restore order. They de-escalate the tension. They fix the underlying issue so that the team can actually function again. They win by making the chaos unnecessary.
I really love that phrasing, making the chaos unnecessary. It reminds me of that idea that a master martial artist can walk through a dangerous neighborhood and nothing happens because they aren't projecting that victim energy or that aggressive energy. They are just clear.
That is the absolute essence of it. It represents the transition from a technician of violence to a master of peace. But to get there, you really have to master the tools Musashi gives us. And the very first tool is how we see the world around us.
Which brings us to the distinction between perception and sight, or as Musashi calls it, Ken versus Kun.
This is one of the most famous teachings in the water scroll section of his book. Musashi draws a very sharp line between two ways of using your eyes. First, you have ken, or sight. This is seeing with the physical eyes, and it's just looking at the surface of things.
So, if I am in an argument with someone, Ken is seeing the person's red face. It is seeing their hands waving around, is hearing the specific insults they're throwing at me.
Yes, exactly. And Musashi says this type of seeing is weak.
Weak.
Weak. Why? Because
Mhm.
it is so easily distracted. It focuses on the leaves on the tree. If you are watching the leaves fluttering in the wind, you are completely missing the trunk.
Mhm.
You are missing the roots. You are reacting to the erratic movement, not the actual intent.
And then the second type?
The second type is can, or perception. This is seeing with the mind, or the spirit. Musashi says this type of seeing is strong. Can does not just look at the surface. It looks entirely through the surface.
It pierces it.
Right? It sees the rhythm, sees the underlying intention. It sees the roots of the tree.
You know, this feels very similar to what the Stoics talk about. We have discussed Marcus Aurelius on this show before. He had that whole discipline of stripping away the story from the actual fact.
It is the exact same discipline. Marcus Aurelius would say that if someone insults you, the sight or the fact is just that sound waves are hitting your eardrums. That is it. That is the physical reality.
Wow, yeah.
The perception requires you to look at the why. Maybe that person is shouting because they are deeply afraid. Maybe they are shouting because they are in some kind of pain. If you only use sight, you get angry because you see a literal attack. If you use perception, you might feel pity, or you might see a strategic opening because you're finally seeing the truth.
There was that fascinating case study mentioned in our research for this topic about inattentional blindness. The police officer, Kenny Conley.
Oh, that is a tragic but absolutely perfect example of Ken versus Can. This happened in Boston back in the 1990s. Officer Conley was chasing a suspect. He was hyper-focused on that one specific goal, chasing the guy.
Yeah.
And he ran right past a brutal assault where other officers were beating an undercover cop.
He ran right past it, and he claimed he didn't even see it.
He did. And the science suggests he was actually telling the truth. He did not see it. His sight was so narrowed, so intensely focused on the chase, that his brain literally filtered out the assault happening just a short distance away from him.
That is terrifying.
It is the ultimate danger of Can. When we hyper-focus on one detail, the angry email, the one rude comment, the specific problem right in front of us, we go blind to the entire context. We miss the big picture.
So how do we practice Can? How do we actually practice perception in everyday life? Musashi has a specific instruction for this, right?
He does. It's brilliant. He says, see distant things as if they were close, and close things as if they were distant.
See distant things as if they were close, and close things as if they were distant. Okay, let's unpack that. What does it mean to see close things as if they were distant?
It means detachment. Imagine you are in a really heated meeting at work. Someone is yelling at you across the table. That is a close thing. It feels immediate. It feels incredibly hot. To see it as distant means you mentally pull the camera back. You look at yourself and the other person as if you were a fly on the wall, or like you are watching it happen on a movie screen.
So you stop being the victim getting yelled at, and you become an observer watching a scene where a person happens to be yelling.
Exactly. And when you do that, the emotional heat just drops. You can see the pattern. You can say to yourself, he is yelling because he is threatened by the quarterly report, rather than he is attacking me personally. You gain immediate objectivity.
And the reverse, seeing distant things as if they were close.
That part is about foresight. It means taking the long-term consequences, things that feel far away in the future, and bringing them right here, right into the present moment.
Like playing the tape forward.
Exactly. If I lose my temper and scream back at this person, that feels really good in the moment. But the consequence, losing my job, ruining my professional reputation, that is distant. Musashi says, bring that distant reality right in front of your face. See it clearly. If you see the firing letter as clearly as you see the angry face in front of you, you will not scream back.
That is such a helpful framework. It is like time traveling for your decision-making process. Okay, so that is perception. But perception relies on having the actual space to see clearly. And that brings us to the next massive concept in this exploration, distance. Or, as the Japanese term goes, ma'ai.
Yes. It is often translated just as distance, but it really means the interval or the harmony of space. In martial arts, if you are physically too close, you cannot defend yourself. If you're too far away, you cannot strike. You have to find the perfect interval.
Right.
But for our listeners, we can break this down into 4 specific types of distance that apply directly to everyday life.
Let's walk through them. First is physical distance.
This is the most basic one. In self-defense circles, They call it the reactionary gap. It is just simple physics and biology. It takes a fraction of a moment for your brain to process a visual signal and send a command to your muscles. If someone throws a punch or a car slams on its brakes on the highway, you need a buffer to react.
Fitt's law comes into play here, right?
In a way, yes. Fitt's law relates to the time it takes to move to a target based on distance and size, but the broader principle of reaction time is the key here. Research on elite athletes shows that even the fastest humans on Earth have a biological delay.
You just can't beat biology.
You really can't. If you are standing physically too close to a danger, you're physically unable to react in time. You have to give yourself the buffer. In a literal sense, step back. Create physical space.
Okay, next up is emotional distance. And I think this is the one most of us struggle with the absolute most.
Oh, without a doubt. This connects back to what we discussed previously regarding verbal judo. Emotional distance means not getting hooked.
Hooked. I like that word.
Yeah, when someone throws out emotional bait, an insult, a guilt trip, a passive-aggressive comment, they are trying to close the gap. They want you enmeshed. They want you grappling with them in the mud.
I have definitely been there. You feel that tight pull in your chest, your face gets hot, and suddenly you are just reacting. You aren't even thinking anymore.
That is because you have completely lost your emotional distance. You have let them inside your defensive perimeter. Creating emotional distance means setting an internal boundary where you can say, I see that you are upset, without actually becoming upset yourself. If you are enmeshed, you react. If you have distance, you can choose to respond.
That leads perfectly into the third type. Conversational distance. How do we actually create distance using our words?
You slow the pace. You use silence. Think about the source material from the book of Proverbs. A soft answer turns away wrath. When someone comes at you fast and loud, they are trying to set a frantic, aggressive tempo. If you answer fast and loud, you are just accelerating the crash.
So conversational distance is really about putting the brakes on the whole interaction.
It is. It is waiting a brief pause before you reply. It is actively lowering your volume. It is speaking fewer words. That creates a buffer. It forces the other person to slow down just to hear you. You are literally stretching out the timeline of the interaction to lower the pressure.
That makes a lot of sense. And finally, the fourth type, strategic distance. This is where we get into the OODA loop, isn't it?
Yeah, John Boyd's famous OODA loop. Observe, orient, decide, act. This is the ultimate model for how we process conflict or rapid change. And the most critical step in that loop is orient.
Orient.
Right. That is where you analyze what you are seeing, compare it to your past experience, and figure out what it actually means.
And distance gives you the time to do that.
Exactly. If you are too close, whether that is physically or emotionally, you tend to skip the orient phase entirely. You go straight from observe to act.
Which is just panic.
Pure panic. You see the threat, you just flinch. You lash out. Strategic distance buys you that crucial split moment to orient. It buys the time to make a wise decision rather than a reflexive, dangerous one.
So distance isn't about running away from your problems at all. It is about buying time. It is about buying the time to actually be smart.
Ideally, yes. But here is the catch. This requires a calm mind. You can have all the physical distance in the world, but if your mind is chaotic, you will still make a bad choice. Which brings us to one of Musashi's most beautiful and enduring metaphors, the moon in the water.
I absolutely love this image. The moon in the water. Paint the picture for us.
Imagine a pond at night. The full moon is up in the sky. If the water is perfectly glassily still, the reflection of the moon is perfect. You can see the round shape, the bright light, all the details. It is a perfect mirror of reality.
Okay, I am picturing it.
And imagine the water becomes agitated. Maybe the wind starts blowing hard, or you have thrown a heavy rock right into the middle of it. The water is rushing, rippling, crashing around. What happens to the reflection?
It is broken. It is totally scattered. You cannot see the moon anymore. Just these frantic flashes of light.
Right. In this metaphor, the water in your mind. The moon is the truth, the actual reality of the situation you are facing. If your mind is agitated, if you are rushing, anxious, angry, fearful, your reflection of reality is entirely broken.
Wow.
You cannot see the truth. You interpret a totally harmless comment as a vicious insult. You miss the glaring warning signs of a bad business deal. You are reacting to a distorted, shattered image.
And the practical application here is that you cannot force the water to be still by hitting it.
That is the ultimate key. If you try to force yourself to be calm, or if you try to literally smack the water flat, you just create more ripples. You have to step back. You have to just let it settle naturally. This is the essence of the life-giving sword. You need absolute clarity to protect the outcome. And you only get clarity when the water is still.
I want to pause here for a moment and address a concern that some listeners might have. We are talking a lot about stepping back, softening, waiting, creating space. This brings up some important guardrails and misconceptions. Is Musashi basically telling us to be passive? Is distance just a fancy word for avoidance?
Absolutely not, and this is a very critical distinction. Distance is not avoidance. It is not running away from the problem and just hoping it magically disappears. It is stepping back to see how to solve it effectively. It is a highly tactical maneuver, not a retreat.
So de-escalation isn't weakness.
No, not at all. Musashi talks about the quiescent sword. It is a state of calm, powerful readiness. Think of a coiled snake or a tiger waiting in the tall grass. They are perfectly still, but they are certainly not passive. They were ready to act with explosive power, but they intentionally choose not to act prematurely.
There is also that famous phrase from the text, holding down the pillow.
That is a brilliant visual metaphor. If you want to stop a person from getting up out of bed, you do not wait until they're fully standing and then try to wrestle them back down. You hold their head down, you hold down the pillow before they can even rise.
Oh, I see.
In a difficult conversation, this means using a calm tone that completely controls the situation. You are suppressing the attack before it fully forms, not by shouting over them, but by being so solid, so incredibly present, that the other person realizes they simply cannot move you.
That is a very different vibe than just being nice or being a pushover. It is being immovable.
It is highly controlled power.
Okay, let's make this completely real with some practical examples. Let's take these philosophical concepts out of the clouds and put them into our daily lives. Let's start with the first example, work. Let's say there is a major conflict or high pressure. A sudden crisis lands on your desk, or you get that absolutely furious email we talked about earlier.
The initial instinct is to hit reply all and defend your honor immediately. That is the killing sword trying to destroy the accusation and the accuser. The life-giving sword approach is completely different. Step back. Do not reply. Create physical and temporal distance. Close the laptop. Walk around the block.
And use that new distance to clarify the objective.
Exactly. Ask yourself, is the goal here to win the argument, or is the goal to actually solve the business problem? Once the water settles, once you can see the moon clearly, then you respond. And here is where we can bring in the checklist manifesto idea.
Oh, right, externalizing it.
Yes, externalize the chaos. Make a simple checklist. Write down, here are the 3 things we need to do to fix this issue. You move the situation from emotional chaos to structured, calm action.
I love that approach. Respond, do not react. Use structure. Okay, second example. Relationships. Let's say it is a tense moment with a romantic partner or a close friend. Voices are starting to rise, things are getting heated.
This is where the reactionary gap is incredibly vital. If you stay in the room while the shouting is happening, you will almost certainly shout back. It is almost biological at that point. The action here is to purposefully create space. You say something like, I need a moment to think about what you said. I am not leaving the fight. I am just taking a minute.
And then you use that moment for perception.
You switch from can, which is sight, to can, which is perception. You look past the angry words. You try to see the fear underneath. You see the exhaustion. You see the hurt. And when you come back into the room, you set a calm boundary. You lower the heat without retreating from the core issue.
How does that sound in practice?
You say, I hear that you are hurt, and I really want to solve this, but we cannot do it while we are yelling at each other. That is the life-giving sword in action. You are actively saving the relationship, not just trying to win the debate point.
That is so practical. All right, third example, habits. The classic spiral day. We have all had these days. You wake up late, you spill your coffee on your shirt, you miss an important meeting, and suddenly you feel like the entire day is just absolute trash.
The water in your mind is very agitated in that moment. It is practically boiling. The major mistake we make is trying to aggressively fix the day by doing 10 things at once. We frantically multitask, we rush around, we stir the water even harder.
So what is the actual fix for a spiral day?
Produce the stakes. Stop multitasking immediately. Musashi has a famous precept, do nothing of no use.
The nothing of no use.
Stop flailing. Return to your baseline with one clean, simple action. Just wash the coffee cup. Just send the one short email. Or just sit in a chair for a brief moment and breathe. Let the water settle. You stop the downward spiral by simply stopping the stirring.
Do nothing of no use. That is going to be my personal mantra for the rest of the week.
It is a really good one to keep handy.
Okay, we have talked a lot about the theory and the examples. Now we are going to do something a little different for this show. We are going to do a guided exercise. This is called the distance reset. Now, if you are driving or operating machinery, please keep your eyes on the road. But if you are somewhere safe, just listen to this and try to follow along mentally. I'm going to hand this over to you to lead us through.
Thank you. Let's take a moment here. Think of this as a tactical pause, a complete reset for your day.
Ready?
First, pause and soften the body. Just stop moving for a brief moment. Next, relax your jaw and your shoulders. These are the physical places where we carry our tension, our biological readiness to fight. Just drop them.
Letting them drop.
Now, name the objective in one sentence.
Yeah.
What are you actually trying to achieve right now? Not 5 things, just one clear thing.
Got it.
Name what is inflaming the situation. Is it hunger? Is it loud noise? Is it your own ego? Is it fear? Just honestly name it.
Okay.
Now, create space in one way. Select just one option from this list. Slow your voice down, shorten your message, ask one clarifying question, or take a physical step back to see your options.
Choosing one.
Next, say one calm phrase that signals steadiness to yourself and others. It could be something simple like, let's look at this, or just, I see.
I see.
Finally, choose the smallest clean action that reduces confusion. Not the biggest, most impressive action, the absolute smallest one.
The smallest one.
And commit to one proof action today. Just one thing that proves to yourself that you are in control of yourself.
Wow. That was, I have to say, that was surprisingly effective. Just dropping the shoulders alone completely changes how you feel physically and mentally.
It communicates directly to your brain that you are safe. It takes you right out of the biological fight or flight response and puts you back into the OODA loop where you can actually plan and strategize.
Before we wrap up this exploration, let's do some troubleshooting. Common mistakes and fixes. Where do people typically go wrong when they try to apply this life-giving sword concept in real life?
Well, mistake 1 is confusing ignoring with distancing. People think, oh, I will just ignore the problem. That is creating distance. No, that is just negligence.
Right. Sweeping it under the rug.
Exactly. The fix for that is to realize that true distance requires more attention, not less. You are watching the problem like a hawk. You are just watching it from further away. You are monitoring the situation, completely ready to intervene, but you aren't entangled in it.
Mistake 2. Waiting too long. Basically freezing up.
This is the danger of overthinking. Distance is for decision, not procrastination. You step back to see the moon in the water. But once you see it, once you clearly see the truth of the situation, you must act. Musashi was a man of highly decisive action. The life-giving sword still cuts. It just cuts the problem, not the person.
That is a great distinction. What about mistake 3?
Letting the other person dictate the rhythm of the engagement. As humans, we naturally mirror people. They get fast, we get fast. They get loud, we get loud.
So what is the fix for the mirroring trap?
Musashi says to move the opponent's attitude, you have to be the anchor in the storm. Use your cultivated calm to slow them down rather than letting their chaotic speed you up. It is a battle of tempos. You must win the tempo.
Mistake 4. Focusing on the leaves versus the roots.
This brings us back to the sight versus perception issue. Do not get hung up on the specific nasty word someone uses when they are angry. Those words are just the leaves shaking in the wind.
And the fix.
Switch your mind to perception. Switch to can. Ask yourself, what do they actually need right now? Do they need reassurance? Do they simply need to be heard and validated? Address the root cause, and the leaves will naturally stop shaking.
And the final mistake? Mistake 5.
Believing you must have the last word. This is pure, unadulterated ego. The killing sword always wants the last word. It wants to verbally dominate.
And the fix for the ego?
The fix is realizing that the life-giving sword only cares about the final outcome, not the ego. Silence is often the strongest cut you can make. If you successfully solve the problem, it really does not matter who spoke last. True victory is protecting the outcome.
Wow. We have really covered a lot of ground today, from the lonely cave of Rigondo all the way to the modern boardroom in the living room. Let's bring it all together for everyone.
Let's flow through the main points one more time.
Yeah.
The life-giving sword is about resolving chaos, not just winning petty fights. It is about rectifying the world around you.
Rectifying, yeah.
Perception, or can, sees the deep truth. Sight, or ken, only sees the surface distraction. You must train yourself to look with your mind, not just your physical eyes.
Look past the leaves.
Distance buys you the precious time to respond rather than react blindly. It gives you the space to run your OODA loop and make a truly wise choice.
Physical, emotional, conversational, strategic.
Remember those 4 types of distance? Yes. They are all essential tools of control. And the moon in the water requires a completely still mind to reflect the truth. If you keep stirring the water with your own anxiety and urgency, you will never see clearly.
Let the water settle.
Calmness is a profound weapon of de-escalation. It is not a sign of passivity or weakness. It is a sign of immense, highly controlled strength.
It is holding down the pillow.
And finally, true victory is protecting the outcome and making the conflict entirely unnecessary.
Making the conflict unnecessary. That is the ultimate goal. Next time, we're going to go even deeper into this philosophy. We are heading into episode 12, which is titled No Sword, Resourcefulness and the Whole Method.
I'm really looking forward to that. This is where we talk about what happens when you have absolutely no tools, no pre-written plan, and only your wits to rely on. It is about reaching the ultimate level of adaptability.
I cannot wait for that one. Thanks for being here. If you want the full series, check the playlist and please like and subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. Pass. Life-giving sword. Prevention over destruction. Sight sees detail. Perception sees truth. Distance buys time. Can versus can. Emotional distance protects. Calm water reflects. Respond instead of reacting. Mastery is making chaos unnecessary.